Welcome to NarrativeNook audio tales where enchanted stories come to life. If you enjoy our stories, please subscribe, like and share to support our channel. Enjoy listening. The Riddle family had never chosen their heir or heiress based on seniority, but ability. So, the most capable person will naturally be the heir of this family. Mr. Riddle Sr. swept his gaze across everyone there sternly before he looked at Nicole. Of course, deep down, he knew very well that Nicole was the most capable and qualified person to inherit the family's wealth. However, he also knew that it was not the right time to say that out loud. Nicole thought about it and realized that the Riddle family had a rule like that instead of always letting the eldest person be the heir. After a moment of thinking, Nicole's face still looked very indifferent, as if that had nothing to do with her at all. She genuinely thought so because if the inheritance was based on capabilities, she felt like her eldest brother would be the most suitable candidate. After all, she was going to get married sooner or later and she would have more responsibilities and concerns in the future. After looking at Nicole's reaction, Mr. Riddle Sr. felt even more satisfied, and it strengthened his decision even more. The other's eyes sparkled like a wolf eyeing its prey. Nicole was the only calm one, exuding an air of a leader and the attitude of the head of a family. Nicole had no idea that her grandfather had already started to treat her as his heir. She simply felt like this matter had nothing to do with them and she did not want to look at those greedy faces anymore. So, she looked at Daniel and Gloria. "Dad, Mom, we're heading back now. What about you?" she asked. "Oh, we're going back now too," the couple said, reading between the lines. "Grandpa, we'll leave now. It looks like today's not a good day to visit you. Well, come here again some other day." Nicole stood up and said goodbye. Daniel and Gloria followed suit. Then, Dexter and Emma did the same, having no interest to stay there any longer. After they left, Mr. Riddle Sr. looked at his two sons that were still there, wearing an unpleasant expression. "Dad, we also think that it'd be better for us to divide our family's wealth in advance since Nicole had gone missing for 5 years and she knows nothing about San Joto after coming back here all of a sudden. If anything were to happen to the company, we can offer some help. It'll be better than all of us getting into trouble together," Karen explained with a smile. She was worried that Mr. Riddle Sr. would put the blame on them on that matter. She had no idea the Riddle family had a rule like that. If she had known earlier, she would not have convinced everyone to come here and force Mr. Riddle Sr. to give up his throne and put herself in such a passive position. Now that the company has been divided, just focus on doing your own part. Don't think about helping. It'd be good enough if you don't cause any trouble. Mr. Riddle Sr. was implying that they should just mind their own business since their own companies were not even doing well. Karen's face turned pale after hearing that, but she dared not retort. So, she lowered her head and replied softly, "Okay. Leave now if you have nothing else to say. Stop bothering me." Mr. Riddle Sr. was starting to get impatient with them. "Well, leave now then." "Take care, Dad," Damien said to his father. Mr. Riddle Sr. scoffed. "There's no need to worry about me. I'm perfectly healthy." Damien paused, feeling somewhat helpless. He could not figure out why his father still hated them after he did everything that the doctor said. "Come on, let's go. Dad needs to rest," Dylan chimed in to smooth things out. After everyone left, the butler handed Mr. Riddle Sr. a cup of hot tea. "Sir, have some tea to calm your mind." "What a bunch of unfilial children," Mr. Riddle Sr. grumbled as he took a sip of tea. "At least 2 of your youngest sons are good. Besides, Miss Nicole has already met all your expectations. It's not worth getting angry over these things and compromising your health," the butler consoled Mr. Riddle Sr. "Daniel and his family are the least I have to worry about." Mr. Riddle Sr. looked more relaxed, his eyes revealing a sense of affection as soon as he thought about Daniel and especially Nicole. "Sir, I suppose you're going to make Miss Nicole your heir, right?" the butler said with a hint of teasing in his tone, as he already knew what Mr. Riddle Sr. had in mind. That girl's mind isn't focused on this matter at all, unlike the others. First, they wanted to get their hands on the shares, and now they wanted to target the ancestral properties of the Riddle family. What a bunch of selfish wolves. "What do you mean, sir?" The butler was a bit puzzled. If the inheritance did not go to Nicole, Who did Mr. Riddle Sr. have in mind? Mr. Riddle Sr. smiled proudly and said meaningfully, "The rule of the Riddle family is that those who are capable shall get the inheritance." The butler instantly understood. If Nicole had exceptional abilities, it would naturally be handed over to her. Even if Nicole had no intention to inherit, she was a responsible person who would not shirk away. After all, this was not just mere wealth. It represented the legacy of the Riddle family. Eventually, Nicole would definitely agree as well. "You're extremely meticulous, sir." The butler sighed. "Come, let's have a meal." Mr. Riddle Sr.'s mood had improved. He was in a bad mood because of the actions of two of his eldest sons, but everything became better when he saw Nicole. At this moment in the courtyard, Damien and Dillian exchanged hesitant looks. "Hey, will Dad really give it to whoever is most capable?" Dillian finally said. "I've never been able to understand his intentions. But since he said so, let's strive for it. Let Dad see our strength, and naturally, he'll have nothing to say," Damien responded, preparing to roll up his sleeves and work hard. Dillian sneered in his heart but nodded on the surface. "You're right. Well, everything's settled now, so I'll head home first." "All right, same here," Damien agreed. With that, the two of them headed toward their respective cars with their families. After getting into the car, Miley asked Damien in a low voice, "Do you think Dad will be biased toward Nicole and secretly help her?" After all, everyone could see the favoritism Mr. Riddle Sr. showed toward Nicole. Damien furrowed his eyebrows slightly and looked at her. Miley immediately choked on her words and felt a little uneasy, wondering if she had said something wrong. "What you said makes sense." Damien's eyes flashed with a cold light. Perhaps he should get someone to keep an eye on things. Hearing him agree, Miley let out a sigh of relief. After the defeat of her own family, Damien had been cold to her. Now, things seemed to be easing up a bit. On the other hand, Dillian glared at Karen and said, "You should speak less from now on. Don't you understand that the more you talk, the more mistakes you make?" Mr. Riddle Sr. already disliked them, but Karen just kept running into trouble. "I'm doing it all for us. If we don't speak up, Dad might just give everything to Nicole. Now that he knows we're watching, he'll restrain himself," Karen said, unwilling to admit defeat. "Dad, Mom does make sense. Look, as soon as Nicole appeared today, Grandpa's expression changed. He doesn't treat her with the same cold face. I can see that Grandpa is heavily biased toward Nicole," Rain said bitterly, feeling jealous. "That damned Nicole. Why didn't she die while she was away? If she had died, we wouldn't have any problems. But she came back, and as soon as she did, she cured Grandpa. Otherwise, we would have already obtained the shares. TCH, you just had to tag along even though we told you not to. If you weren't there, Nicole wouldn't have heard anything. You're the sole reason Nicole had a reason to stay behind." Dillian glared at Rain. "Nicole would have stayed if Grandpa wanted her to. Could you have driven her away?" Rain retorted, sounding offended. "Rain." James gently tugged on Rain's arm, signaling her to stop talking. Dillian grunted disdainfully. "She's useless." After saying that, Dillian stormed toward his car, and Karen could only follow along. Rain, who had been scolded continuously, became red with anger. She resented why she always had bad luck whenever Nicole was involved. "Rain, you heard Grandpa just now." Now that everyone had left, James discarded his previous timid demeanor, and his scheming eyes lit up. "So what if I heard it?" Rain replied angrily. What did it have to do with her? She came back just because she heard that they were dividing the family's assets and she wanted to get her share as well. If you're capable, you can take it. Don't you want to obtain that huge wealth and the inheritance from the Riddle family? James said in a meaningful tone, trying to induce her. What do you mean? Rain seemed to understand James's meaning but was hesitant to fully comprehend them. James noticed Rain's expression and went all out. Since Nicole is eligible as well, you can also become that capable person. He initially thought that the daughters of the Riddle family were not eligible, but he clearly saw that Mr. Riddle Sr. favored Nicole. If that was the case, then Rain naturally had the same eligibility. But how can I become that person? Rain asked, realizing that she would need achievements, which could not be attained solely by talking. I suggest you join the company first. After all, your brother doesn't plan to help in the company, and your father always needs reliable people. If you can assist him, then. James tactfully guided Rain along his train of thought. Rain quickly understood and could not help but grit her teeth. That's a good idea. Why didn't I think of it before? The Harlow family was only a second-rate family, and James did not hold much power within the family. This left Rain with limited rights. However, if she could join her own family's company, everything would be different. Regardless of the performance of the subsidiary they managed, it was still a top-notch company, stronger than the Harlow family. If she could achieve success and prove that she was better than Nicole, then everything belonging to Nicole would be hers. When the time came, she would make sure to take Nicole down ruthlessly. Seeing that Rain had fully understood his plan, James took the opportunity to say, when the time comes, I can also join the company and help you. I'll assist you in obtaining everything from the Riddle family. Rain, feeling triumphant, readily agreed. Good. I'll talk to Dad about it. Once the two of them entered the company, sooner or later, she would surpass Nicole. While these two were envisioning and scheming, Nicole and Jared had already returned to Nicole's family. Seeing only Nicole and Jared, Samuel and the others asked with concern, "Where are Mom and Dad?" When we were leaving, Uncle Dexter called Dad for a discussion, so we came back first. They should be arriving soon, Nicole explained. Upon hearing this, everyone felt a bit relieved and waited for Nicole and Jared to sit down before asking, what happened with the ancestral home? Nicole shook her head in frustration. Uncle Damien and Uncle Dillian are causing trouble again. What are they up to this time? Samuel exclaimed irritably. They want to divide the family assets, Nicole said slowly and disdainfully. The news shocked not only Samuel but also Spencer and Stanley. Are they insane? Grandpa is still alive and well, yet they want to divide the family assets. Moreover, aside from diving the companies, it seems that it's not something that can be done easily. Yeah, Nicole scoffed. If they weren't crazy, how could they do such a brainless thing? It seems like my return has driven them mad. What did Grandpa say about it? Samuel curiously asked. No matter the generation or seniority, only capable individuals are eligible to inherit the family assets, Nicole revealed calmly. Capable individuals? The three of them looked at Nicole simultaneously. Nicole immediately shook her head. Don't look at me. I'm not interested. Not you? Then is it us? The three of them asked in unison. They did not even bother to get involved in the company, so inheriting the Riddle family assets was even less appealing to them. Don't worry. We still have Sean and Steve. Nicole smirked. She knew very well that these three brothers of hers were less capable than her. They were not even willing to participate in company matters. That's right, Spencer agreed. Steve only loves money, so he probably isn't interested in inheriting the Riddle fortune. After all, there's a sense of responsibility here. As for our eldest brother. The group then agreed unanimously that Sean was the most suitable candidate. Nicole also believed that Sean was the best choice, and she had already made up her mind to help him obtain the inheritance rights. The legacy of the Riddle family could not fall into the hands of someone with ulterior motives. She had also discussed this with Jared on the way home, and he agreed with her decision and respected it. Daniel and Gloria entered the room, coincidentally overhearing their conversation, and they felt relieved. Dexter and Emma called them over, and they were discussing the same matter. Given the current situation, Daniel's children had a greater chance of obtaining the inheritance rights. But with 5 sons and 1 daughter, how would they ultimately decide? Would there be a fierce internal struggle? That was not a scene they wanted to see. However, they did not expect that their worries were unnecessary. These young ones were actually pushing responsibility onto each other. None of them was willing to shoulder it, and they unanimously pushed it onto Sean, who was not present. What others would schematically calculate to obtain seemed to be despised by them instead, leaving their parents amused. Mom, Dad, you're back. Samuel noticed Daniel and Gloria and greeted them with joy. The couple smiled gently and sat down on the sofa. "We're back. As for the matter of the inheritance rights, don't think too much about it. After all, Grandpa is still healthy. This matter doesn't need to be rushed," Daniel reassured them. He did not want the children to feel too pressured. "It's fine. We're not under pressure," Samuel said with a mischievous smile, knowing that the pressure had already been shifted to their eldest brother. "That's right," the others chimed in, afraid of being called back to the company to immediately take on official roles. "You lot." Gloria couldn't help but laugh. "Even though you're pushing everything onto your eldest brother, shouldn't you also lend him a hand here and there?" They were all her children, and she cared for each one of them. If they all pushed the responsibility onto Sean, he probably would not be able to handle it. "We have Nicole, and Sean also has someone who takes care of the internal and external matters for him. We have faith in him," Samuel said genuinely. He was truly afraid that once he entered the company, he would have no freedom left, and he was certain he would not be able to bear it. Spencer and Stanley nodded in agreement. They were fine as long as they did not join the company. Gloria was completely speechless. While other siblings would fight fiercely, her family situation would attract envy and resentment if it became known to others. "Mom, don't worry. Dad also said that Grandpa is in good health," Nicole reassured Gloria. "Besides, both Steve and I can help Sean in the company, along with Jane. She's a capable assistant to him." Although Nicole had only met her sister-in-law a few times since returning and had not had a chance to communicate much, she still had some understanding of her. She felt that Sean was fortunate to have her. "Then you also need to take care of yourself." Gloria expressed her concern, not wanting Nicole to overwork herself. "I'm fine, really. Don't worry," Nicole reassured her. "Rest assured. In the company, Sean and Steve won't let her work too hard," Jared said, holding Nicole's soft hand. Gloria nodded in agreement. "Jared's right. I've been overly worried." Nicole could not help but be amazed. "Mom, I'm your biological daughter, right? Why was it that my earnest advice couldn't even compare to a single sentence from Jared? You silly child, why are you jealous of your own husband?" Gloria could not help but laugh. Nicole pretended to be aggrieved and said, "We haven't had a formal wedding yet, and besides, my last name is Riddle. If you want a wedding, we can have one right away." Jared's eyes flashed with a hint of mischief. "Who said anything about having a wedding?" Nicole scolded Jared playfully, but her cheeks involuntarily turned slightly red. "Ha ha ha." The Riddle family burst out laughing. Nicole felt even more embarrassed and stood up. "I'm going to check on Nolan and Lana. They've already fallen asleep. I put them to bed," Samuel boasted, proud of his achievement. Nicole could not help but roll her eyes. "Then I'll go and see if they've kicked off their blankets." As Nicole walked upstairs in big strides, the laughter in the living room grew louder. Jared's lips curled up slightly, and then he followed her upstairs. The living room became even more lively as they discussed Nicole and Jared's wedding, wondering if they should start planning for it. After coming out of the children's room, Nicole happened to overhear their discussion. She could not help but face palm as she thought, "These are my closest family, but why were they so eager for me to get married?" "It was just like this last time," Nicole murmured to herself unintentionally. After saying that, she paused for a moment. "What did I just say?" But when she tried to recall it carefully, she could not remember anything. All she knew was that what she had just said must have been about something that had happened before. However, no matter how hard she tried, she just could not recall the exact incident or details. Jared noticed that Nicole had not come back and found her standing in the corridor, lost in thought. "What's wrong?" "I think I remembered something just now, but when I tried to recall it more carefully, I couldn't remember anything." Nicole did not hide anything from Jared and explained what had just happened. "Do you have a headache?" Jared asked softly, as he noticed that her reaction to thinking about things was different this time. "No." Nicole shook her head. She found it strange as well. "Why didn't I have a headache this time? Perhaps it's a good sign." Jared's pupils slightly contracted. Nicole was experiencing some recovery in her memories, yet she did not have a headache. Perhaps she would regain her memories very soon. Nicole bit her lip softly and whispered, "But I still can't remember anything." Although Nicole did not have a headache, her memory was a blank slate. Everything that just happened felt familiar, yet it did not seem like a sign of memory recovery. "It's okay. I'll contact Martin and discuss it with him," Jared reassured Nicole, holding her delicate hand gently. His broad palm and warm touch instantly dissipated Nicole's feelings of anxiety and loss, and she suddenly felt at ease. Looking up at Jared, Nicole slightly bit her lip and whispered, "Thank you for being by my side all this time." Ever since she returned to San Giotto and regained her identity, she would feel reassured as long as Jared was with her whenever something happened. Jared gently stroked her silky hair and softly said, "No need to thank me. I should be the one thanking you for finally coming back to me." If she had not returned, his future would still be bleak, devoid of any color. Nicole's heart skipped a beat, deeply moved by his words. She could imagine how he had spent the last 5 years and could not help but feel sorry for him. Biting her lip lightly, Nicole did not know how to comfort Jared, as the root of his pain was her. Jared seemed to see through her dilemma and smiled slyly. "So, you owe me something?" Nicole blinked in surprise. "How should I make it up to you?" Jared smirked, gently holding Nicole's delicate chin. Her cheeks instantly turned red, and she instinctively wanted to dodge, but she heard Jared say, "Do it, by never leaving me again." "Ha!" Nicole suddenly froze. Her mouth was slightly agape as she blinked in confusion. "That's all?" A wicked smile tugged at the corner of Jared's lips. "Judging by your expression, it seems that what I want and what you expected are not quite the same." Nicole mechanically nodded. Suddenly realizing that something was off, she hurriedly shook her head. Then she felt that was not the right response either, so she nodded again, and then shook her head, ultimately getting herself in a mess. Jared smiled, his lips curling seductively. He slowly leaned toward Nicole, his captivating voice echoing in her ear. "What were you thinking?" Her breath hitched, and she felt extremely embarrassed. Though his words were not explicit, his actions already revealed what he had in mind. She had indeed misunderstood Jared's intentions just now. Clearly, he was teasing her, and now she felt both embarrassed and guilty. "Nothing. I wasn't thinking anything." Nicole felt her cheeks burning, and she broke free from Jared's grip, turning around and quickly heading toward the room. Watching her flee in such a panic, a hint of amusement flashed in Jared's eyes as he followed her steps. Back in the room, Jared saw that Nicole had already entered the bathroom. He waited for a while, but she did not come out. He shook his head, chuckling softly, and approached the bathroom door. "Are you still not finished?" Jared asked in a low voice. "Not yet." Nicole's somewhat reluctant voice echoed from inside the bathroom. "But you've been in there for a while now." He worried that she might faint from soaking too long. "Oh, I'm done," Nicole reluctantly replied, mustering up the courage to face him. She had actually finished a while ago, but she did not know how to face him, so she had been lingering in the bathroom, not wanting to come out. "Then come out," Jared urged. She had been in the bathroom for so long, it was time to get some fresh air. There was no response from inside, but there seemed to be faint sounds. Jared guessed that Nicole was probably getting ready to come out. "Ah!" Suddenly, a cry of surprise echoed from inside. Startled, Jared quickly opened the door and rushed into the bathroom. "What's wrong?" The two pairs of eyes met. Both of them were speechless, and the atmosphere was extremely awkward. A gush of cold wind blew over, and Nicole came back to her senses. She aggressively pulled the bathrobe to cover her body while yelling in a panic, "I'm fine. Get out." Jared did not leave. Instead, he pulled Nicole into his arms and carried her out of the bathroom. "I can walk on my own. Put me down." Nicole grabbed her bathrobe tightly, feeling nervous. She had just stepped out of the bathtub when she slipped and fell down. Unexpectedly, her fully naked body was seen by Jared. She was already embarrassed as it was, and yet Jared carried her out in that manner. Nicole could not wait to dig a hole for herself. On top of that, this would signify that she had revealed her full self to Jared. The next thing would be. The more Nicole thought about it, the more scared she felt. At that moment, the only thought in her head was to get away from Jared as soon as possible. The both of them needed time and distance. Otherwise, things would escalate. Jared Johnston, listen to me, Nicole said, trying to make Jared come back to his senses. However, Jared had already placed her on the bed. He questioned her in a low voice, "Where does it hurt? Did you get injured?" Nicole had thought up a long list of arguments just now, but all of a sudden, it became useless. The words caught in her throat. Why is this different from what I imagined? What's wrong? Seeing Nicole remain silent, Jared became even more worried. He could not help but frown. I'll call the doctor. Hearing the word doctor, Nicole came back to her senses and grabbed onto Jared. Don't. I'm fine. I just accidentally fell down. Are you sure? Seeing that Nicole's complexion was better, Jared wanted to make sure of it. Yes. Nicole nodded hurriedly. It seemed like she was trying to prove that she was not hurt, and Jared was just overreacting. As it seemed like Nicole was really fine, Jared relaxed a little. At least you're okay. His gaze was fixed on her. Although Nicole's body was covered by the bathrobe, her exquisite figure was still vaguely visible. Jared unconsciously recalled the scene when Nicole was lying on the ground in the bathroom. Then, his gaze darkened, and heat pooled in his stomach. Jared continued staring at Nicole, without saying a word. That made Nicole feel embarrassed and her cheeks began to flush. LLM going to sleep. Nicole bit her lip, pulled the blanket over, tucked herself in and turned over to face away from Jared. You can sleep first. I'll shower. After Jared finished speaking, he turned around and strode to the bathroom. Nicole noticed the hoarseness in Jared's voice. Her heart suddenly tightened, and her breathing became shallow. She knew that Jared was clearly trying to control himself, and that confused Nicole. After Jared went into the bathroom, he turned on the cold water and the icy water poured down. It was at this moment that Jared felt sane again. Embarrassed, he shook his head and sighed. Jared could only laugh at himself quietly. The both of them were a legally married couple, and yet he could only take a cold shower. There was nothing he could do. After all, Nicole had yet to recover her memory. Jared was worried that Nicole would feel scared or that he would hurt her. So, he decided to give her more time. The next day, the sun rose and the clouds and wind swept lightly across the sky. After breakfast, all the members of the Riddle family left for their respective duties. Jared sent Nicole to the Riddle Corporation after he dropped Nolan and Lana off at school. Just as Nicole was about to open the door and get down from the car, Jared grabbed onto her. Then, his cold lips landed on Nicole's. Nicole's eyes widened in shock and her mind went blank. When she came back to her senses, Jared had already let go of her. Looking at Nicole's stunned yet cute look, Jared smiled and gently patted her head. You may go now. I'll pick you up after work. Okay, Nicole replied briefly. Then, she opened the door and got out of the car. After that, Nicole realized that something was off. Why was she being so obedient? He had just sneakily kissed her. How could he react so calmly? The car's window rolled down and Jared said with a smile, I actually prefer this type of compensation. Jared Johnston. Nicole's cheeks were blushing rapidly. She stared at Jared angrily. This reckless man. All right, I'll leave now. Jared quickly ordered the driver to drive off before Nicole could explode in anger. Looking at Jared's car leaving, Nicole gritted her teeth in annoyance. She wished that she could blow the car up with her glare. This guy was really getting harder to satisfy by the day. However, Nicole could not do much but take it in. Nicole, what are you doing, standing here? Sean approached her and took a look at their surroundings in confusion. Nicole came back to her senses and replied to Sean, I was just about to head upstairs. Sean nodded. Let's go. Nicole turned around and looked at Jane, who was standing beside Sean, all dressed up like a secretary. Nicole greeted her with a smile. Jane. Jane was stunned for a moment. Then, she nodded in a friendly manner. Chairman. Jane, I don't think that's suitable. Nicole was a little taken aback that Jane would refer to her with such formality. It's up to her. She calls me Mr. Sean at work too, Sean explained on behalf of Jane, exasperated. Hearing this, Nicole raised her eyebrow a little, as if she was surprised by it. However, the look on her face carried some sense of pride as well. Jane was Sean's secretary, but now she was the wife of the Riddle Corporation head office's CEO. One could imagine how much criticism Jane had received from others. It was rare to have someone like Jane with such thoughtfulness and tolerance. The love Jane had for Sean must be true love. Curling her lips slightly, Nicole said affectionately, "Jane and Sean, you guys really are a match made in heaven." After they finished the conversation, Nicole entered the office building first. Sean glanced at Jane and followed after Nicole. Jane froze, left feeling stunned. She did not expect Nicole to say such a thing. But at that moment, Jane understood why Nicole was well liked by everyone in the Riddle family. And that was because she was so lovable. Although Jane did not show it through words or actions, Nicole understood Jane's position. Nicole even gave her some reassurance, and that made Jane feel warm inside. For someone like Jane, being in a relationship with Sean in her position was not easy. It did not matter whether it was from a place of jealousy, righteousness, or other reasons. People would always talk behind their backs. Especially since Jane decided to stay in the company after the marriage and continue holding the position of Sean's secretary. All this was because she loved Sean for who he was. Taking a deep breath, Jane slowly walked into the office building. Only those who were observant could tell that Jane was acting a little differently than usual. With her head held up high and her back straight, Jane was filled with confidence from head to toe. It was not the coldness and unapproachable stance which Jane had forced herself to carry before. After entering the elevator, Nicole glanced at Jane and curled her lips into a smile. She understood why Jane managed to win Sean's heart. Jane was definitely worth Sean's heart. "Jane, since you're only willing to be recognized as a secretary in the office, why don't you come over for dinner sometime?" Nicole extended an invitation. Since at home, Jane would just be her sister-in-law. Jane replied, full of gratitude, "Sure." Nicole nodded her head. Then, she turned to look at Sean and smiled playfully. "Sean, I have bad news for you." Sean's gaze turned cold. What dirty tricks are Uncle Damien and Uncle Dylan up to now? After Nicole briefly mentioned the splitting of the family's assets, she raised her eyebrow and said, "The problem is, this bad news is related to you." "Me?" Sean was confused. What did the family's assets have to do with him? "Grandpa said you have the ability to inherit, and everyone agreed that you're the perfect choice for this," Nicole reported truthfully. "When you say everyone, who's included?" Sean found it weird that he did not know anything about it. Nicole shrugged her shoulders innocently and threw her brothers under the bus. Stanley, Spencer, and Samuel. Sean was startled at first, but then he let out a laugh which scared people. These brats. They've become so daring now. They actually passed such a huge responsibility onto him. They deserved a beating. "Sean, I honestly think you're the perfect choice. So, I hope you'll take this into consideration," Nicole said with a comforting and sympathetic tone. "Are you sure?" Sean raised his eyebrows and smiled wryly. Nicole nodded. "Yes." After they finished the conversation, Nicole turned to Jane and said, "Jane, all the best." Once Sean inherited the Riddle family's assets, the burden on Jane's shoulders would naturally be heavier. Jane understood what Nicole meant. However, she had not recovered from such huge news. The look she gave Nicole seemed to carry a hint of defiance. Therefore, she did not dare promise Nicole anything at that moment. To Jane, Sean would make all the decisions, and she would unconditionally support him. Then, she would assist and back him up without any hesitation. The doors of the elevator opened, and Nicole stepped out first. Although the final decision would not be made anytime soon, Nicole still felt the need to tell Sean so that he could be prepared. Furthermore, inheriting all of the Riddle family's assets was not an easy thing. They might face some obstacles. Naturally, precautions were necessary. Nicole's gaze darkened, and the aura surrounding turned cold. She remembered all that had happened at the Riddle family manor the night before. Those greedy wolves would need a solid lesson for them to realize their place. Sean and Jane walked out of the elevator as well. After glancing at each other, the look in their eyes was dense and full of emotions. "Mr. Sean, are you going to accept it? I guess Nicole has no interest in inheriting it anymore." Sean understood that their grandpa's wish was for Nicole to inherit them. But from the looks of it, Nicole had no interest in it. If Nicole was not interested, it would be normal for the brothers to suggest his name. After all, those boys were not willing to step foot in the company. The only one who helped out was Steve. In fact, Steve was only in for the money. He was not interested in managing the company at all. "I'll respect your decision, no matter what it is." Jane had a firm gaze. If her husband really decided to take over everything, Jane understood the burden she would have to carry on her shoulders. "Don't worry. You can do it," Sean reassured his wife. He was very sure of Jane's skills. Jane nodded slightly, and Sean smiled. As long as Sean would be by her side, that was more than enough for Jane. "Sean, it's such a rare sight to see you and Jane interacting so lovingly." Steve walked over and could not help but tease when he saw Sean and Jane. Sean rolled his eyes in annoyance at Steve and said, "You should bring Sally home one day." As soon as he finished his sentence, Sean walked off with Jane in tow. "What's going on?" Steve could sense that something was off with Sean. He could not help but scratch his head, confused. However, that couple was now far away from Steve. So, Steve could only come back to his senses and walked to his own office. On the other hand, Jared had arrived at Johnston Group. Iris was waiting in front of Jared's office. "Sir, there are some issues with happiness trading." The look on Iris was heavy. Jared's gaze darkened as he questioned coldly, "What issue?" Iris gave a brief summary of the situation. "Previously, we were at the stage of negotiating a contract. But this morning, they contacted us to terminate the collaboration." Jared's pupils narrowed slightly. "Terminate?" "Yes, I've done some research, and it seems like they found a new company to work with," Iris replied a little awkwardly. Jared turned his gaze toward Max instantly. Max understood what Jared wanted, and he left. "Got it." Jared opened the door and entered his office. Iris knew that Jared meant that she could leave after she was done reporting. But she hesitated for a moment. Then, she gritted her teeth and followed Jared into the office. She had already found out about Nicole's situation. According to her sources, Nicole had a contractual marriage with Jared. The only issue was that Nicole suddenly disappeared for 5 years. Although she had returned, Jared had no intention to hold a wedding yet. Perhaps, things had changed between the two of them. After all, no one knew what had happened over the past 5 years. At that thought, Iris felt that she should grab hold of this opportunity. Perhaps, she could win Jared's heart. In that case, Jared would not have to marry someone he did not love. Iris was sure that Jared did not love Nicole that much. Otherwise, they would have gotten married earlier. So, Iris felt that this was her last shot. In fact, it was her one and only chance. Iris took a deep breath, gathered some courage, and stood in front of Jared's desk. Jared frowned a little. "What's the matter?" "Sir, I wanted to ask if you have some time after work?" Iris asked in a soft voice. "No," Jared replied with a deep voice. Iris' face immediately froze. She could only reply through gritted teeth, "Oh, it's just that I've made an appointment with the CEO of Happiness Trading. I was hoping to see if there's any way we could solve this issue. And if you could show up, the outcome might be even better." "There's no need for that. Get out." After Jared finished speaking, he picked up the documents beside him and ignored Iris. Iris' face turned pale, and yet she could only give a reply in a quiet voice, "Noted." She glanced at Jared. Then she reluctantly turned around and left. Jared quickly took care of the documents on his desk. It was as if he did not care about what had just happened. Knock, knock. After knocking on the door, Max entered the office and said with a low voice, "Sir, I've looked into it. It's Lawrence's doing." Hearing this name, Jared's busy hands froze. Then, he snorted. Why am I not surprised? After all, there were few companies in San Jose that could snatch projects from Johnston Group or even have the guts to do so. Lawrence was one of the rare ones. Sir, what are we going to do? Max asked with a dull look on his face. He could not believe Lawrence really had such nerve. Jared gave it some thought. Then, his lips curled into a devilish smile. Give up on happiness trading. You should try contacting Radiance Commerce. Jared wanted to see what other tricks Lawrence would play to mess with Jared's projects. At the same time, Jared wanted to see if Lawrence had the ability to complete them. Max understood that Jared was getting ready to fight back. Noted. After Max left, Jared continued to work. It was as if he was not affected by anything. Time flew by quickly, and in the blink of an eye, it was time to get off work. When Jared left the company, he did not notice the figure who just came out of the door. Please like and share so others can see it too. Also hit the subscription button and notification bell so you can be notified on our next release. Thank you for your support. God bless you.